This week's issue of Sports Illustrated is the first ever that's called the MMQB, the Monday Morning Quarterback issue, in which Peter King and his staff took over production, and it's a special issue devoted entirely to the NFL. So let's go to the Cowherd Global Satellite Network, which doesn't really mean anything, but I just love saying it. And look at Peter King, and look at, what are you wearing, Peter King?
I'm wearing our new the MMQB T-shirts, Colin. I thought I would get some nice, cheap publicity today, but thank you for having me on.
Well, you did. Congratulations. Let's start, guys raising fists, continued protests. How is this playing out within the league offices, in your opinion, Peter?
Well, I don't think they like it, but there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. It's a matter of free speech, and nowhere in a player's contract or nowhere in the NFLPA's CBA with the NFL is it written players must stand at attention for the national anthem. So the players are doing something that's perfectly within their rights. I don't know if Thomas Jefferson was quoted accurately, but I've always thought that Thomas Jefferson was right when he said dissent is patriotic. And that's what we're seeing right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little more of it this weekend. I think, as our Robert Klemko reported this week, that some players may have been a little bit spooked by the fact that there were so many 9/11 commemorations scheduled for the 15th anniversary of 9/11. So I don't know what will happen this week, but it wouldn't surprise me if more players were involved in week 2 than week 1.
Okay, let's get to football. You were in Arizona last Sunday for Cards Patriots. And what were your takeaways with Jimmy Garoppolo? I was surprised that New England won. I thought Arizona would win comfortably. What was your takeaway?
I agree with you. I mean, everything, in my opinion, Colin, when Bill Belichick's career is over in 2027 or whenever it's going to be over, I think people are going to look back at this game as one of the really, truly great wins of his coaching career. It wasn't a playoff game, wasn't a Super Bowl, I get it. It wasn't something that they had to win to get in the playoffs, but it was perhaps the game that he coached with the Patriots that the odds were against them the most. No Brady, no Gronk, no left tackle. Their top 2 pass rushers from last year gone. Going against a team that I bet is probably was the most picked team to get to the Super Bowl by all the experts before the year. And even though the Cardinals had to miss a field goal late in the game, I think the Patriots outplayed them. The Patriots played better than Arizona. How did they do that? Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels had a great game plan on offense, and it shows that he's coached Jimmy Garoppolo up exceedingly well the last 2 years. Garoppolo was ready.
You know, if I'd have said to you, Peter, in 2009, Peyton Manning's going to leave Indy after this season. He had like 4,700 yards, 33 TDs. People would say, Colin, you're just, it's a hot take. If Garoppolo goes 4-0, Tom's 39, and let's say Tom goes 9-3, 8-4. And Tom, goes to Denver, goes somewhere, doesn't play particularly well. There are going to be those, least of all Bill Belichick, that's going to say, is our future here now? And listen, Favre, Montana, Peyton Manning, those coaches knew when they left that Favre, Manning, and Montana were going to win games. They weren't paralyzed by that. Here's my point. Garoppolo goes 4-0. Tom goes 8-4. Do you think Belichick is sitting down in rooms with Robert Kraft and saying, we got a tough decision to make here?
He might, because Bill Belichick is only going to be swayed by facts, nothing else. And I think what's going to be interesting, Colin, if Jimmy Garoppolo goes 4-0, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen in the offseason. The Chicago Bears, or pick 10 teams, are going to call the New England Patriots and offer a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. Some team will, I guarantee it, just because of how important the quarterback position is. Jay Cutler goes 7-9 this year. GM Ryan Pace of the Bears, he'll be on the phone with Belichick. But I think, I think this is a little bit different than some of the other ones. Like you mentioned, Favre. Well, one of the reasons why the Packers got rid of Favre and why they wanted to move on to Aaron Rodgers is they were sick of every year not knowing until June or July whether Brett Favre was going to play again or not. And so this one, Tom Brady is going to come to him at the end of the year, whatever happens, and say, I want to play the next 5 years, which is why, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a very interesting thing at the end of this year. Do you let Garoppolo go, or do you hang on to him for the 2017 year, his last year on his contract, and say basically, at the end of 2017, we'll decide?
You know, Peter, you don't get quarterbacks that talented in the second round much, and the Patriots are going to win with Brady, so they're going to have lousy first-round picks primarily, and Bill's not going to give away 7 picks to get the number 1 pick. My takeaway is you're not going to get another Garoppolo. I mean, this was a second-round pick. And by the way, I had on Eric Mangini yesterday. He said everybody in the league liked Garoppolo. They were stunned they got him. Couldn't I make the argument that Bill's saying, fellas, I've been drafting quarterbacks for 15 years. These are the 2 best I've had. That's real, is it not?
Well, no question about it. But, Colin, just think about this. If you're sitting there at the end of the 2017 season and Jimmy Garoppolo is unsigned and Bill Belichick decides, I'm not ready to give up on Brady, well, Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to re-sign in New England. He's going to sign for $18 million somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
And Bill Belichick's not paying him $18 million to back up.
That's right. Wow. Peter King is joining us, MMQB editor-in-chief. Yes, he's not advertising M&Ms, folks. That's the Monday Morning Quarterback T-shirt. All right, so Dak Prescott. Listen, a lot of underneath stuff. When he had pressure, he didn't complete many passes. But in the end, there is something. He is twitchy. He is athletic. He was not overwhelmed. I cannot wait for Washington and Dallas this weekend. Gut feeling, Peter, and you've often told me you're not great at predicting, but I think this game is fascinating. What do you suspect happens Washington-Dallas? Because Washington can't defend the run. Do the Cowboys just run it down their throat for 4 quarters?
Well, but the Cowboys can't rush the passer either, Colin. So, Kirk Cousins could have a very different game. I think for the Dallas Cowboys to have a really good chance this week, they've got to take the reins off Dak Prescott. They didn't allow him to do everything he can do well. He's got to be able to throw the ball downfield some, and he's got to be able to throw on the run downfield. I think they need to take the reins off Prescott. They do that. This is going to be a game at the 2-minute warning of the 4th quarter. Yep. If they don't, I like Washington.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff Fisher, very respected coach. But for the first time I can remember, Peter, that performance, Monday Night Football, was so abysmal that a lot of people are saying, look at his resume. This guy's not winning playoff games. His offenses are increasingly unwatchable. Do you believe that it's a legitimate decision to discuss this staff and their inability to elevate offensive quarterbacks and players?
Well, I think right now, I always am hesitant after one game to make some decision with finality. And Jeff Fisher has just navigated a really difficult situation in the offseason. He lived in a hotel for 6 consecutive months. His players have been basically itinerants for the entire offseason. They've trained in 4 different places. So, and again, you're a professional. You can't make excuses. But all I'm saying is that I think, and that plus the fact that Jared Goff did not come in and take the reins and make the Rams comfortable enough to start him opening day, like Carson Wentz did in Philadelphia. So I think that there's no team that has a more important game in week 2 than the Los Angeles Rams opening at home before 90,000 against Seattle Sunday.
Well, Peter, my audience largely disagrees with me, but I said the Steelers were obviously impressive, and so was New England. But when you consider the Kaepernick situation, that everybody claimed it was going to be a distraction, and that Blaine Gabbert's fairly limited, I was really impressed with how buttoned up, only 2 penalties, how efficient. That's the best I've ever seen Blaine Gabbert play. Now, I acknowledge I lived in Oregon. I am rooting for Chip Kelly. But I was impressed. Remember the Riley Cooper situation could have blown up. Instead, they go 10-6. Riley Cooper has 8 touchdowns. This situation could have blown up. Instead, that's as well as San Francisco's played in 2 years. Is it okay for me to be a little homer here and say Chip Kelly has faced 2 very difficult situations? He's passed with flying colors.
In my opinion, Colin, I think Chip Kelly got a raw deal in Philadelphia. I'm one of the few people who feel that way. People thought that he should have been gone. But I think if you cast your lot in such an all-in way in Philadelphia, you give a guy more than 3 years in 1 losing season. I thought it was ridiculous. But having said that, I think San Francisco's the beneficiary of that. Maybe not right away, and maybe not with these 2 quarterbacks. But at some point, I think Chip Kelly is going to be a good NFL coach. And it could happen with this team. He's got a very good running back, and I think he's got a good enough defense that showed very well on Monday that, you know, they've got a chance to win 8 games and to be a representative team based on what we saw Monday night.
All right, Peter King, this week they take over Sports Illustrated. On the cover is the ascension of Khalil Mack, drafted 5. Jadeveon Clowney got the love. Khalil Mack is extraordinary, and this Raider team is an absolute blast to watch. Peter King, SI, buy it this week. Peter took it over, got his T-shirt. Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks a lot, Colin. Have a great day.